You probably don't realize it, but every time you choose comfort over growth, there's a deeper reason behind it. It's not because you're lazy, it's not because you lack ambition, and it's definitely not because something is wrong with you. In fact, your brain thinks it's protecting you. That's the part no one talks about. We think staying in our comfort zone is a choice we consciously make, but most of the time, it's not. It's a reaction, a survival pattern, a psychological loop that your mind runs on autopilot, one that keeps you safe, but also keeps you small. Because growth doesn't just require effort, it requires discomfort, uncertainty, vulnerability, and your brain is wired to avoid all three. So if you keep putting off the things you know would improve your life, if you keep circling around the same goals without real progress, if you keep choosing the familiar over the meaningful, this video will finally explain why. And more importantly, how to break the pattern. Most people assume the human brain wants success, purpose, progress, but biologically, it doesn't. Your brain's primary job is simple: keep you alive with the least amount of risk, and the easiest way to do that is to push you toward whatever feels familiar and away from whatever feels uncertain. That's why staying in your comfort zone feels natural, even when you hate the results. Your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you from anything unpredictable. Growth felt dangerous to your ancestors. Changing environments, new challenges, new tasks. These things meant potential threat. So their brains learned to stick with the patterns that worked and avoid everything else. You inherited that wiring, and today it still reacts the same way. A new habit, a new routine, a new version of you. Your brain sees them not as opportunities, but as risks. That's why you feel resistance, why you procrastinate, why you choose the easier path even when you know it costs you long term. It's not a character flaw, it's a survival mechanism that hasn't caught up with the life you want to live. But the moment you understand this, the moment you see that resistance for what it truly is, you can finally start choosing growth on purpose instead of avoiding it by instinct. One of the most surprising things about comfort is this: it almost never feels like fear. It feels like logic. You tell yourself you're not ready yet. You convince yourself you need more information. You wait for the right moment, the right energy, the right clarity. It all sounds rational, reasonable, even responsible. But most of the time, it's fear wearing a mask. Fear rarely announces itself. It doesn't show up dramatically, saying, "Don't do this, I'm scared." It shows up quietly, disguised as sensible thoughts that sound mature and intelligent. I'll start when I feel more confident. I need to think about it a little longer. Now isn't the perfect timing. I'll do it when I'm less stressed. I should probably plan this better first. These thoughts feel safe, comforting. They temporarily protect you from the discomfort of trying something new. But what they really protect you from is growth. Your mind creates these explanations to keep you from stepping outside what feels predictable. Not because you're weak, but because uncertainty has always been interpreted as danger. So instead of seeing opportunities, you see risks. Instead of seeing progress, you see potential failure. Instead of taking the next step, you retreat into familiar thinking patterns that feel responsible, but keep you stuck. The moment you recognize this, the moment you can say, "Hold on, this isn't logic," This is fear pretending to be logic. Everything changes. You stop negotiating with your comfort zone and start understanding how it manipulates you. And awareness alone is the first crack in the wall. If you've ever wondered why you keep repeating the same cycles, why you start strong, lose momentum, and then return to old habits, it's not a lack of discipline. It's something far more predictable, the comfort loop. Here's how it works. First, you feel a spark, motivation, hope, inspiration. You imagine a better version of yourself. You decide to make a change. This is the activation stage, and it always feels exciting. But as soon as you begin taking action, your brain detects discomfort. New routines, unfamiliar behaviors, uncertainty, effort. It doesn't care whether these things are good for your future. It only cares that they feel different from your past. So the resistance begins, not as panic, but as subtle friction. Hesitation, doubt, excuses, mental fatigue, procrastination. Your mind gently pushes you back toward what feels predictable. You fight it for a while, until the discomfort outweighs your motivation. And then, you stop. This is where guilt enters. You feel disappointed, frustrated, ashamed. You promise yourself you'll try harder next time. You reset your goals, reorganize your plans, convince yourself this time will be different. But it won't. Not as long as the loop stays invisible. Because without realizing it, you're not choosing comfort. Comfort is choosing you. It's selecting the familiar option every time discomfort appears, locking you into a cycle that feels personal but is actually neurological. This loop is why your life changes in short bursts instead of consistent waves. It's why progress feels fragile and why you often end up back where you started. But once you see the pattern, you can finally interrupt it. You can create a different response to the moment discomfort appears. And that's where real growth begins. There's a simple reason you keep ending up in the same place. You're caught in a comfort loop. It starts with motivation, that moment you feel ready to change. You plan, you get excited, you take the first steps. But as soon as your brain feels discomfort, effort, uncertainty, unfamiliar routines, it starts pushing back. Not loudly, but through small thoughts. I'm tired. I'll do it later. Maybe this isn't the right time. You slow down and eventually stop. Then the guilt appears. You feel disappointed, you promise yourself you'll try again, and the cycle restarts. It's not a personal failure. It's just your brain trying to return to what feels predictable. And until you notice the loop, you'll keep repeating it. But once you see it for what it is, you can finally break it. Comfort isn't just a feeling. It's a survival strategy your brain has used for thousands of years. It was designed to protect you from danger, not help you grow. That's why anything uncertain, a new habit, a new identity, a new challenge, gets interpreted as a threat. Not consciously, but biologically. Your brain thinks unfamiliar equals risky. Risky equals bad. Stay where you are. So even if your current life is frustrating, lonely, or unfulfilling, your brain prefers it because at least it knows how this feels. And here's the trap. The more you choose comfort, the stronger that wiring becomes. Your brain starts believing that avoiding discomfort is the safest option, even when it's the reason you feel stuck. You're not broken. You're just following a system designed for survival, not for growth. One of the strongest forces keeping you in your comfort zone isn't fear, it's identity. Your brain clings to the story you've repeated about yourself for years. I'm not disciplined. I always quit. I'm not the type who takes risks. I'm just like this. These stories feel true only because they're familiar. They protect you from the pressure of becoming someone new. Because growth requires identity discomfort, stepping into a version of yourself you haven't fully accepted yet. And your brain resists that shift, even if your goals are pulling you forward. So you don't just avoid new habits, you avoid becoming someone who can sustain them. But here's the twist. You only need small identity cracks, tiny moments where you act differently, even for a minute, to start rewriting the story. And once the story changes, the comfort zone loses its power. Comfort feels harmless, like nothing really happens when you choose the easier path. But something always happens. You don't stay the same, you slowly shrink. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce the belief that you can't handle challenge. You make your world a little smaller, your confidence a little weaker, your future a little more limited. And the cost is subtle. You stop trusting yourself. You stop dreaming as big. You stop believing change is possible. Comfort feels good in the moment, but over time, it quietly steals the life you could have built. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just gradually, one small avoidance at a time. Seeing this clearly isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up, because the moment you realize comfort has a cost, growth starts to feel worth it again. There comes a point in life where your comfort zone stops feeling comforting. Not because something suddenly changes, but because you do. You start noticing that the habits that once felt easy now feel empty. The routines that used to protect you now feel limiting. The life that once felt fine starts feeling too small for who you're becoming. This is the moment people call feeling stuck, but it's not stuckness. It's growth trying to happen. Your mind is still holding on to the familiar, but your deeper self, the part of you that wants more, is beginning to pull away from it. And this tension you feel? It's not a sign that something is wrong. It's the clearest signal you'll ever get that you're ready to step out of the old version of yourself. When comfort stops feeling like home, that's when you know it's time to grow. Growth doesn't begin with discipline, motivation, or a perfect plan. It starts with something much smaller, noticing your patterns without judging them. The moment you catch yourself reaching for comfort, noticing the excuse, the hesitation, the old story, you interrupt the automatic loop your brain has been running for years. You don't need to force yourself into massive action. You just need a pause, a breath, a moment of awareness where you say, "This is the part where I usually pull back, but maybe I don't have to." That tiny shift is enough to weaken the pattern, enough to introduce choice where before there was only instinct. Growth begins with one small moment where you choose differently, not perfectly, just differently. And once you do it once, your brain starts to learn that discomfort isn't danger. It's possibility. If there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's that choosing comfort doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Your brain is wired to protect you, not to evolve you. But growth was never about suddenly becoming stronger. It's about slowly teaching your mind that you're safe outside the limits it built. You don't have to transform your life overnight. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need a new identity by tomorrow morning. You just need one small moment each day where you choose the direction that scares you a little less than it used to. Because that's how growth really works. Quietly, gently, one choice at a time. And if you keep choosing that direction, even imperfectly, your comfort zone will expand into a life that finally feels like it fits you.